Saad Dinno, pharmacist and co-owner of Acton Pharmacy, West Concord Pharmacy, and Keys Drug and Newton. I would like to welcome everyone back to our show, A Healthier You. Our goal is to discuss current health topics and to provide information that will guide you to a healthier lifestyle. Today, we will be talking about aging and some of the important things that you need to know about health services and care options that are available to seniors in our community. To cover this topic, we have a 9-person panel of experts on the subject of senior care. I am so honored and pleased to have these dedicated professionals from Acton on our show today to educate our viewers about services that are available for elders across the care continuum. Let me introduce our panel for senior care experts. We have Sharon Mercurio, the Director of Acton Council on Aging, Heather York, Director of Acton Nursing Services, Attorney Samantha Gentel from Council on Aging, Ask a Lawyer program and the Generation Law Group, Chris Foye, Executive Director of Care Centers of Acton, Life Care Centers of Acton, Amanda Scribner, Marketing Director of Visiting Angels, Jay Beausoleil, Director of Community Relations at Benchmark Senior Living at Robbins Brook, Dan Forbes, an expert on hospice care from Tandem Care Associates, Kathryn, Kochenour, an attorney from Eckel, Hoag, and O'Connor, and James MacRae, District Director of Acton Boxborough Veteran Services. Thank you all so much for being here. It's an honor and privilege for you guys to be on our show. To make the best time of to use of our time, we are going to use a case study for our discussion. We have changed the name of the patient, obviously, but Kathy Smith is an 80-year-old woman who moved to Acton a few years ago to be closer to her daughter. We are going to take you through Kathy and her family's journey on her health challenges, including memory loss, and the Acton Business Organization and Care Services that provide us support for her continuum of care. I'm going to start with Sharon. Sharon, thank you so much for being here again. Can you please discuss the types of services and programs that are available to our seniors in our community that was helpful to Kathy?
Sure. Thanks for having us, Saad. So the Acton Council on Aging, now located at 30 Sudbury Road, is in with all the human services that the town of Acton offers. So the Council on Aging really can offer quite a bit to Kathy and her family. We have all types of programs, activities, movies, games, meals, exercise classes that Kathy can attend free of charge, being an Acton senior. If there's any type of financial need, we're able to help her with food assistance, fuel assistance applications. If she was looking at public housing, that's something else we could assist her with. And her daughter, we could provide services for caregivers because that is stressful when you have a family member with all these challenges. So Kathy is more than welcome to come to the senior center. As her disease progresses, she's also welcome to bring a companion or caregiver with her. We've started a memory cafe, which is just a wonderful opportunity both for someone with dementia and their caregivers. And again, we could meet with both Kathy and her daughter to talk about the various services available. Minuteman Senior Services is usually a recommendation we make for home health services, for Meals on Wheels, that sort of thing. And then if there's other needs, as they progress, we're able to help them with that.
Okay. You said there's many activities, obviously, at the Council on Aging.
Yes.
Can you just describe a couple of them? Let's say a Monday and a Thursday activity, for example.
Sure. Oh, goodness. I believe we have 15 different exercise classes at this point. So really we can handle any level. We start with chair exercises. We have aerobics, Tai Chi, yoga. So lots of different varieties for folks. There's Scrabble on a Monday that happens in the dining room. We always have a noontime meal, so there's nutrition needs that are being met.
Excellent.
We do different lifelong learning programs, so art history. We're doing a series on classical music right now.
Wow.
Various art classes, bridge, mahjong, chess,
So
little bit of
array of interest of the programs that are incredible in your beautiful building, by the way. That I have to say, it's an absolutely amazing building.
Thank you.
So thank you for sharing.
Sure.
As Kathy gets older, maybe she has a heart. Maybe she was driving when she wasn't moved to Acton, and now she's not driving. I know this great community of Acton has transportation service available. Can you just discuss that a little bit, please?
Sure. The town has 3 different vans that are door-to-door service. So someone like Kathy, the van can come pick her up at her door, bring her to the senior center free of charge. Could also bring her to a doctor's appointment, down to your pharmacy if she needed a medication refilled.
Yep.
There's transaction associates, and they can dispatch a ride for her. Best to call a day or 2 in advance for her, and they do local trips. Should she have a trip into Boston or something and her daughter cannot help her, we do have a volunteer driver program as well, or we can work with the physicians or other options to try to get her where she needs to go.
Awesome. You guys do a great job. It's an incredible Council on Aging. I've been there many times, and you guys do an amazing job.
Thank you.
You know, the town of Acton is lucky to have you as the director and all the staff there that do an incredible job. So thank you.
Thank you.
I'm going to pass the mic on to Heather, who's an RN and is a director of Acton Nursing Service. What kind of nursing services you guys provide at Acton Nursing Service, if I may ask? And just elaborate on the function of Acton Nursing Service.
Oh, sure. Thanks for having us, Saad.
My pleasure.
So we're the Acton Nursing Service. So we wear 2 hats, really. We're the public health department for the town of Acton, but we're also a visiting nursing service doing skilled home care in the home. For someone like Kathy, if she's coming up to the Human Services and Senior Center building, we are in the building.
Yep.
If there's anything that she needs while she's coming into the building, as an example, blood pressure checks, if she needs any durable medical equipment loaning, we do those things. We also do other clinics, including flu clinics, podiatry clinics a couple of times a month, that we have a certified foot care nurse come in.
Wow.
And provides that to the community. Okay. Those are things that we do within the building. Outside of the building, we are a VNA. We get our orders and our referrals from hospitals, physicians, rehabs, and we go into the home with skilled nursing, physical therapy, occupational therapy, speech therapy, and certified home health aides for any kind of change in a medical condition, an injury, a surgical procedure, post, exercise programs for, say, a knee replacement. That's typically what we do.
Awesome. And then, I know you guys also, besides blood pressure screening and all the other activities that you guys are involved in, you also have a skilled home care services?
Right. That would be the VNA services that we do in the home.
Okay.
Yep.
And how do people get in touch with you guys if they need their service, if they need your service and such? Obviously we'll have the phone number and contact info, but what is the procedure?
Sure.
If you could discuss that a little bit.
Sure. So the procedure for home care services, the referral needs to come from a physician, a physician's assistant, or a nurse practitioner. It's typically after an injury, a surgical procedure, or a change in status where that we'll get a call looking for services to go in, whether it's just nursing to do maybe blood pressure checks with a new medication, IV therapy, or a post-surgical where physical therapy is needed, occupational therapy is needed, and a home health aide for showering and personal care for safety.
Okay.
Once that referral comes, we admit the patient within 24 hours from the referral. And then the length and service depends on the patient. Everyone's different. Typically, we look at a patient over a 60-day episode.
Okay.
We do the service that they need. The therapist will determine their exercise plan, what their functional ability is, and what their needs are, and work with them during the week. And then teach private caregivers also, safety, for transfers, getting in and out of the house, showering, all of those things.
Awesome.
And our nurses will do medication management. As I said, we do IV therapy at times, wound care, a little bit of this and a little bit of that, depending on what the patient needs.
Right. And from a medication perspective, we kind of collaborate a lot. People utilizing our compliance packaging system called Medicine on Time, which is a program called Timely Med, and you guys do a great job. And,
that's a great program for people in the community who don't have the ability to manage their medications on their own, or family members that can do it. So that it is a great program that you provide, Saad.
Thank you so much, Heather. Thank you for the information. Now, continuing on the theme of COA, do the many programs you guys have, Kathy attended Ask a Lawyer program, and she needed some proactive, she has some questions about power of attorney and healthcare proxy, because that was the discussion at that talk. So Samantha was an elder affairs attorney. Can you discuss the difference, please? Discuss what you do, and then also please let us know what's the difference between a power of attorney and a healthcare proxy.
Sure. So at Generations Law Group, we're your attorneys for your whole life, hence the name.
Yep.
We do estate planning. We do mass health asset protection planning. We do the whole mass health application process from start to finish.
Okay.
That's definitely one of my specialties. So we do that for either home care, nursing home care. We do guardianships, conservatorships. We do probate and some special needs planning as well. So in terms of a power of attorney is a document in which you name someone to make financial decisions for you if you can no longer make them for yourself. There are two main different kinds. One is effective immediately, which we tend to recommend. The other is springing, so it springs into action when it's activated by a doctor. Sometimes if there's a health emergency, it can take a while to get that doctor to activate it, which is why we recommend one that's effective immediately. It's really important to get a power of attorney from an elder law attorney, because powers of attorney in particular can say lots of different things, and we want to make sure that your document's going to work for you. In the event that someone doesn't have a power of attorney, then you will have to, probably a loved one will have to hire an attorney like us to do what's called a conservatorship. And a conservatorship you can think of as like a court-ordered power of attorney. It has to go through the probate and family court in whatever county you're in.
Okay.
A healthcare proxy names someone to make healthcare decisions for you if you can no longer make them for yourself.
Okay.
That has to be activated by a doctor. It's another important document to get from an elder law attorney, because a lot of us probably get that free state form from their doctor's office, which is fine in most circumstances, but it is missing language relating to antipsychotic medication. And the reason why that's important is in the event that later in life, if you need antipsychotics and you have that short form healthcare proxy, a facility may still require court proceedings called a Rogers monitor. And the whole point of these documents is to try to avoid having to go to court later. So in most circumstances, the free state form's okay, but there's always the chance that it won't be, and it's better to have one drafted by an attorney. In the event that there isn't a healthcare proxy in place, then you need court proceedings again, and that would be guardianship, and again, through the probate and family court in your county.
Thank you so much. So we have Kathy, who attended your program. She learned a lot, so she had a lot of questions, so she called your office, she made an appointment.
Yep.
What is the legal advice you would be giving somebody like Kathy, or her family for that matter?
I try not to let anybody leave my office without, at minimum, a power of attorney and healthcare proxy.
Okay.
Depending on her estate, we may, recommend a will. We may recommend a trust. It sort of depends on the situation.
Okay.
Then you can also potentially get a living will, which outlines end-of-life wishes. It's not legally binding, but what is legally binding is the MOLST form, but that's something you fill out with your doctor if you have a terminal illness.
Okay.
The other document that's very helpful is a Hipaa authorization and release. You may be familiar with that in a doctor's office. You fill it out for that specific doctor's office, but what you can get is one that's global, so it can be used anywhere, and it's a great document to have when you're in that gray area where maybe the healthcare proxy hasn't been activated yet, but maybe your kids need to, communicate with your doctors or be with you at the appointments and stuff, so that allows any access to medical information.
Thank you so much. Great information. Unfortunately, Kathy had a bad fall at the house, and she broke her shoulder. And she had to have surgery, was in the hospital for a few days, but her confusion was markedly increased during her hospital stay, and the discharge team at the hospital recommend that she goes to a rehab center. So Chris from Life Care Centers of Acton, here in Acton, obviously, what type of care would Kathy expect to receive during her stay at the rehab center? And if you could, what is the difference between short-term rehab and a long-term care, please?
Well, thank you for having us today. So we are a skilled nursing facility under our license. We're subacute care, where acute care would be through a hospital. Once a patient would be stable, so they do the surgery, they meet with the physicians ready to discharge, then they would come to a SNF level care as a skilled nursing facility. And typically, we do short-term and long-term care for the patient. In this case with Kathy, where she did have the shoulder injury and she needed surgery, we would look at where she was at her highest level of function before. So typically when we do short-term, the goal is to get the patient kind of back to that highest level of function and return them back to the community. So what we would focus on is we work very closely with the doctors. We get a full discharge summary of basically an outline of the patient that covers everything from the procedures, their medications, their treatments, any wound care, any like physical declines, say if they have issues, balance, confusion, anything like that. And then we base a care plan around that. Each person that comes into the facility needs to have an attending physician, and the physician directs the care. And in her case, having a shoulder surgery, we would probably be focusing on the physical therapy and occupational therapy. We're trying to get her to basically return to her normal level of function. And for us, it's not always, like you see like sports conditioning and things like that. It can be things as simple as being able to cook for yourself, being able to clean, being able to open cabinet doors, being able to get dressed, being able to do proper hygiene, comb your hair. Somebody with a shoulder surgery and 80 years old, even simple things as just combing your hair and brushing your teeth can be very difficult. So our occupational therapy team would work with her to try to gain those things back. And there's always a goals of care when you first come in. We always try to meet with the family members if there's one available, and to try to say, so if she was coming to live with her daughter, then the goal would be to create a plan to get her back home with the daughter. And then if she was say she had 6 stairs to get up, we'd have to make sure that she was able to climb 6 stairs.
I see.
If she lived on the 2nd floor, we'd have to make sure that she could get up to the 2nd floor. So it's a very personalized plan that we would do for her, again, to get her back in the community. As far as the long-term to short-term care, so short-term care, is to try to return somebody back to the community. And typically in a short-term care patient, it is paid by an insurance company. Typically a Medicare or Medicare replacement plan, such as Tufts Medicare Preferred, it could be Fallon, it could be Harvard Pilgrim, a managed care company or private pay. And again, that's meant to get somebody home. But in cases where sometimes we're not able to get people to a higher level of function to get them back in the community safely, then they could look at a long-term care placement. And for long-term care for us, typically the payer source is Medicaid or private pay. And the difference is when somebody needs 24-hour nursing care. If somebody was, they didn't have that support at home, they needed medication management, they needed maybe a treatment to happen, they were diabetic and they're unable to manage their sugars or their insulins. If they needed help with what we call activities of daily living, they needed help toileting, bathing, grooming, dressing, eating. Those are the services that we would provide 24/7 as a custodial care patient to basically try to give them the highest level of function that they can while they're living with us.
And that could be, how long could be for?
It could be, sometimes there's transitional, like sometimes you could come in like short-term care and then say your bedroom was upstairs and they really want you to get home, but you just can't get up the stairs.
Sure.
But you need to have some things done to your house. You need to build a ramp because maybe you can no longer walk in the
Gotcha.
stairs. You need that.
I understand.
So there's a transitional time where you can be considered as transitional care. And, you know, it would change probably from an insurance payer source to either private pay or Medicaid.
Okay.
Or for the long-term care, it's really, we've had people there 5-6 years. I've had a patient there for 15 years.
Wow. Okay.
It all kind of depends on
Depends on
their
the
needs.
patient.
I think now we're seeing, you know, with modern medicine, the average age of people is increasing. We right now have a 103-year-old woman that lives with us. We actually have another woman at our facility in the Neshoba Valley who's 107.
Okay.
So people are living longer, and I think with the advances in medication and in medicine and just treatments now, they are staying a little bit longer in nursing homes if they need that care.
Thank you so much. So
Thank you.
So thank you. I appreciate that, Chris. So she gets discharged from the SNF or the skilled nursing rehab center, and the family has decided that she needed some in-home care and hired visiting angels to provide a home care for Kathy. We have Amanda here from Visiting Angels. What are the benefits of in-home care that you could discuss?
I think it allows people to stay at home and maintain their independence if they're not in need of 24-hour medical care, as we only provide non-medical care.
Okay.
But it allows them to stay in a place that's familiar,
Okay.
which I think increases their emotional status as well.
Absolutely. Yep.
We can assist with everything from 24-hour care, 24/7, or we can do respite to 4-hour shifts, a few days a week, and assist with things such as bathing, meal preparation, medication reminders, as we're not allowed to administer legally. We can also assist with errands, assistance to doctor's appointments and things of that nature. Encourage exercises if they're coming from a facility and recovering from a surgery.
Okay.
So essentially, we can do just about anything.
And just to elaborate on the home care aspect of things, there are many agencies out there. So, we've heard horror stories, unfortunately, as there's, in every industry, there's sometimes you hear bad things. How does Visiting Angels or other agencies kind of, or Kathy's relatives, for example, her caregivers, her daughter, what interviews should they be doing? Questions they should be asking before hiring a home care agency?
Sure. There's certainly a difference between making a safe choice and a non-safe choice.
Sure.
So in 2015, the legislature of Massachusetts discontinued the business license for the home care industry,
Okay.
which essentially means that agencies were no longer required to do background checks on their caregivers, nor were they required to carry the proper insurance and bonding, so that, God forbid, that they should get injured in the home, they can sue the very people that they're there to care for. So there's the next step down, which is being accredited in the state of Massachusetts, and you can do so through the Home Care Alliance of Massachusetts, but it's a process that you go through. You have to submit an array of paperwork, and they oversee all your processes, everything from caregivers to background checks, et cetera, to make sure that you're doing everything by state and federal guidelines.
Okay.
So,
What questions? A couple of questions that they should be asking or looking for in an interview time of home care agency hiring.
they should. I try and give this information up front so that
Okay.
people have the tools that they need to make a safe choice, as there are so many agencies.
Yep.
Typically, for agencies doing things by state and federal guidelines, rate-wise are all within a couple dollars of one another.
Okay.
So if someone is significantly lower in rate, that's usually a red flag right there. So we often encourage them to go to the Home Care Alliance of Massachusetts website,
Great.
and they list all the accredited agencies in the state of Massachusetts.
And we will include that in the credit at the end, so make sure that you share that with us. I appreciate it. What's your area of coverage for Visiting Angels of Acton?
So we cover a very large area. We
Okay.
have Bedford and Lexington,
Okay.
all the way up over to, we cover Dunstable, and then we also are up to Lancaster. So
Okay.
we have a very large area, Acton, Lexington. So we've got a very large area.
Thank you so much, Amanda.
You're so
Great
welcome.
information. I appreciate it. So, now she's at home. but the family has decided that it's time to look at an assisted living facility. The daughter is starting to look at different assisted living facilities that are in the area. One of the good ones around is the benchmark of Robbins Brook. Jay's a representative here. Jay, what are the core benefits in considering assisted living facilities for a loved one?
Yeah, thank you, Saad. Robbins Brook, what we're providing is an atmosphere, a homey, comfortable atmosphere for our folks. Families are looking to us to take over the care for their loved one. We can provide services on site and at a moment's notice be there to help them. So there's a certain comfort for families as well as for the resident themselves to say, I know someone's looking out after me 24/7. They will receive 3 meals a day, so they'll be well fed.
Okay.
They will, along with the care, they'll also get a great activity schedule that can kind of keep them busy through the day. And a schedule can be nice to, is something to lean back on, for things to do, to meet new friends. And the social aspect of assisted living can be very beneficial for folks. This also includes housekeeping and laundry is done for them. They can live there, be comfortable, know that there's care for them, and also just enjoy time with friends.
And you have many programs at the at Robbins Brook and other assisted living facilities they do as well. Can you just describe those a little bit?
Yeah, I mean, oftentimes we actually utilize many of what the panel provides in services too. We're reaching out to the community to provide them with the services, their interest, and what they would like to do. So we can provide hospice care when it's necessary. When there's extra home care necessary, we can provide them with that. And programs to keep them busy throughout the day. If they have interest, we want them to maintain their independence. Oftentimes, folks who are coming in are afraid of losing their independence. But when I can talk to them and kind of talk to them about, we can help you be more independent than you actually are. And my experience is right from my own family, where my dad was sitting at home in front of the television all day waiting for people to visit. And where we were able to provide him with a place that he could have friends, do his own things, transportation, go out to see a movie, to go shopping and everything. And it's a nice homey atmosphere that can provide him more to do than they would do at home.
Awesome. Thank you so much.
My pleasure.
You guys do a great job.
Yep.
So Kathy is progressing, and her dementia is progressing, and she was falling more frequently, and she had developed a number of chronic illnesses, including life-threatening heart condition. Let's pretend that she's not at the either she's at the ALF or at home. Her doctor has recommended that due to her steep decline in health, that she look into hospice. So sometimes I think hospice is misunderstood by many. So we're lucky to have Dan from Tandem Care Associates here. Can you elaborate on hospice, what it is, and how your services are provided to those that are in need of hospice?
Yeah, so I agree, Seth. Thanks for having us here.
My pleasure.
Hospice, I think, is very misunderstood. When I first heard the term hospice, I was under the assumption someone was going to pass in a couple days. And that's really not the case. I mean, hospice is a situation where the family, along with their doctor, makes a decision that they're not basically going to pursue any more medical treatment to try to fix whatever problem there is. That's all obviously difficult. It's very emotional.
Yep.
So once again, a doctor needs to sign off on that. When a family makes the decision that we're not going to pursue further treatment, what happens in a hospice scenario is basically a team is assembled, a clergy member, a nurse, a social worker, and a CNA, a certified nursing assistant. They're assembled as a team to try to make the end of life as comfortable as possible.
Okay.
But there are other misconceptions that go along with hospice, because when people hear hospice, they think that team that's been assembled is going to be with you all the time, and that's not the case.
Okay.
So what happens is, a nurse comes as needed, a social worker comes as needed, the CNA comes on as needed, but in this time of, this emotional time, people sometimes don't make the connection that they're here to work in a limited capacity, basically.
Okay.
So where we come involved is, especially at the end of life, it's very difficult for the family to handle this type of scenario. The hospice company is not available 24/7. The family members, more often than not, are not able to commit the time or the resources for whatever reasons. They have their own commitments, their own family. So that's where we come in to basically make the process as comfortable as possible for the client.
Okay. And there are many different hospices. How do they get to choose one? If I may ask that question.
So, everybody on this panel, there's not, they should be given choice, whether it's home care,
Yeah.
or whether it's hospice, or whether it's an attorney, or whether it's, the COA. You maybe happen to live in Acton, but there's many options available, and basically, with help with a doctor's guidance, the PCP's guidance,
Yep.
or a case manager's guidance, and typically the process is you bring in a few people and find the fit that's right for you.
Thank you so much. So, unfortunately, Kathy has now passed, and her family needs some legal advice regarding her will and estate planning. So we have Kathryn here, an attorney, elder affair attorney. What type of advice would you give to Kathy's family after her death? Let's start with that question first.
Thank you, Saad. First, I would tell her family to have the funeral and allow them to grieve. Then they can make an appointment to come see us a few weeks after Kathy's passing. It's important not to wait too long, however, as there are some important deadlines that we have to meet. And for our clients, we have a checklist of tasks that they can complete before they even come in to see us. When they do come in for their first meeting with us, they should bring Kathy's original will, if she has one,
Okay.
her original death certificate, and a list of Kathy's assets and their approximate values. We can advise them of whether probate is necessary and what other steps they will have to take.
Okay. What is probate?
Sure. Probate is not always necessary. Probate assets are those that don't pass by beneficiary designation, by operation of law to a surviving joint owner, or are held in a trust.
Okay.
So anything that's held in your name alone without a named beneficiary is a probate asset. Probate assets have to be administered through the probate court in order to pass to your intended heirs. If you have an original will, it has to be filed with the probate court in order to be given legal effect. And in that way, Kathy's probate assets can pass to her intended beneficiaries after her death.
And how long does that typically take?
The process takes no less than a year, typically,
Okay.
although most of the work can be completed in about 6 months or so.
But I'm sure it's more difficult for the families if somebody doesn't have a will, doesn't have the proxy, doesn't have all those documents in order.
It can
As someone
be.
is getting older.
It can be more complicated. And actually, if Kathy does not have a will, the
Yes.
Massachusetts laws of intestacy will govern. And the Massachusetts laws of intestacy are complex rules based on who of Kathy's family is surviving at the time of her death,
Okay.
including whether she has a surviving spouse, children, parents, siblings, and so on. And the most important aspect to remember is that her family members don't get to decide who inherits her assets. Instead, who inherits her assets and in what proportions is determined by Massachusetts law if she doesn't have a will.
So it gets more complicated.
Yes, a little
Okay.
bit if she doesn't have a will.
So it's important to have all those documents again in order,
Yes,
if
I
at
would
all
say so.
possible,
Exactly.
before we reach that point.
Yep.
Thank you so much.
Yep, you're
Appreciate that.
welcome.
For those families who are, and we have a lot of them in our area that we care for a loved one who is a veteran or the spouse of a veteran, we are fortunate here in Acton to have access to Acton Boxborough Veterans Services. And James MacRae here, who's the district director for that service, is with us, and thank you so much for being here. Obviously, veterans are special individuals, whether female or male. They served our country, and they deserve the utmost respect and utmost whatever we can provide for them is what we need to do. So, James, as a Veterans Affairs Services representative, what elder care services are available to veterans or their families of veterans?
Sure.
And you
Well,
can walk us through while they're still alive or after death.
there could be quite a few benefits that may benefit the individual surviving spouse, or if this case in particular is the veteran, a number of state and federal benefits that may pertain to assistance in this case. So, excuse me, if the individual, the case study is the veteran or the surviving spouse, my primary duty is to help veterans and surviving spouses with a state benefit known as Chapter 115 assistance.
Okay.
So it's an income-based means-tested form of assistance where for a single veteran or surviving spouse whose income is less than $2,100 a month and assets, not including your primary home, vehicle, personal belongings, does not exceed $5,000, we can at the very least reimburse monthly medical costs. So this includes Medicare B, Medicare D, any supplemental coverage, Blue Cross, Blue Shield, Harvard Pilgrim, MedEx, prescription copays, hospital doctor copays, anything over the counter that the doctor finds is a need, durable medical equipment, we can reimburse those costs. We cannot reimburse through this benefit long-term care, assisted care, extensive in-home care. However, people who meet that income criteria, getting that money back on a monthly basis really helps them out in that situation.
Okay.
So that's my primary duty as a veteran service officer, and if their income is significantly lower than that $2,100 income threshold, we can, based on family size, if they have to pay for heat, how much their rent or mortgage is, we're able to provide a monthly amount of money to help them get by.
Okay.
So beyond that, on the federal side of things, if this individual is a veteran, I always recommend VA healthcare.
Okay.
I personally opted out of what the town offered me when I first started in 2011, and I've been utilizing VA healthcare ever since, even with someone who has private coverage and they're perfectly happy with that. I tell them to look at it as a second set of eyes on things if they want. It's a benefit that they've earned. It doesn't mess with any current cost or coverage on their private side of things, and really anything that can be provided through private coverage, the VA offers as well. So this would, anyone who's eligible for VA healthcare, for instance, that has no disability rating from the VA whatsoever, would be eligible for hospice care through the VA as well.
And do they have to get the services at a VA facility like the one in Bedford, or can they go anywhere they want?
You would have to go to a VA facility.
Okay.
If there is an emergency, God forbid, heart attack, you break your leg, you got to take an ambulance, you're going to the closest facility.
Okay.
As long as you notify or someone next of kin notifies the VA within 72 hours,
Okay.
the VA is supposed to foot the bill for that.
Okay. So this is, how about somebody that's young versus old? I mean, do the services differ?
So that's a good question. So as long as the individual's a veteran, at least
Yeah.
for VA healthcare, you have to be the veteran.
Yeah.
As long as you're eligible for VA healthcare, it doesn't matter the age.
Okay.
If the doctor finds it's a need, an aging veteran, maybe with dementia or other ailments relating to that, as long as the doctor finds it's a need, it's my understanding that they may provide up to 1 day per week of in-home care provided by the VA, which is may not cover everything that they need, but it definitely helps put a dent in things in terms of costs.
Awesome.
So other benefits throughout VA healthcare may depend on the amount of service-connected disability that the veteran may have, ranging from 10 to 100%. And based on the veteran's disability rating, there may be additional benefits.
And how where are you? Where are you located?
My office is located at the Health and Human Services in South Acton, as well as nursing and the senior center as well.
Thank you for your service.
Thank you.
We
Appreciate it.
appreciate it, and thanks for all you're doing for our veterans in our community.
Appreciate the support.
It's incredible. This was an incredible case study that we all went through, and everyone had a great, incredible input. Anything else that I forgot to ask, or anything that you guys forgot to mention? Yes, Chris.
I think it's great that we have everybody able to come together. And I think in this case study, to find out, where there's one person, one community member, and all the kind of entities in the community that touch that one person to do, and each of us did one certain part to help that person. And I think that sometimes is, you don't realize that it does take a village. It does take a tight community.
Absolutely.
And to have people that are experts in their little pieces really makes a difference. And it's nice that everybody in this case was able to do one little thing that made a big difference for the patient, for the person.
And their families.
And their families. So
Very
it
well
was
said,
really
Chris.
great to see that, and just really, it takes a village, and it's just a nice thing to really see.
Yeah, I mean, just for our audience, this all of us here are part of what we call Aging In Acton. It was a group that was formed in 2018. And all we're trying to do is work together for the benefit of an individual or family in whatever aspects of healthcare that they need. Health or law or legal aspects or whatever services they may need. We have a beautiful book that we put together, with all our information on it. That's available around the town and the library and in our pharmacy and other locations. So it's a great group that was put together just, again, to benefit our seniors in our community. Amanda, go ahead.
I concur. Thank you, Chris. I think it's great as well. All of us seem to work well together in the community. We refer one another, and there's been a level of trust built there. So I think it's great for the community to also know that we all kind of work together as a team. It does take a village.
Well said. Jay, I think you want to say
Yeah,
something.
and
sir?
just to follow up on the same thought is I feel confident that we all could be a resource for folks in the community and that they could reach out to any of us and would be able to refer to each other and stuff. We have a nice little network here.
Absolutely. Well, thank you so much for being here, guys. I
Thank
appreciate
you.
all the information you guys all shared. So it was great information. Thank you again to all our panelists today for taking the time to speak with us about the many senior care organizations and resources that are available in the community to meet the specific health needs of Acton seniors. Thank you all again for tuning in to A Healthier You. I'm Saad Dinno, co-owner of Acton Pharmacy, West Concord Pharmacy and Keys Drug in Newton, and I look forward to seeing you around town.